This semester, I decided to take a courageous step of vulnerability and retell part of my testimony through movement. When I was in the 8th grade, I went through many life transitions that left me feeling unseen, lonely, and insecure. To regain a sense of control over my life, I turned inward and decided to start working on myself. Although I initially had good intentions, my attempt to exercise control over my life turned into a struggle with anorexia. My senior piece, entitled Her, choreographically captures my personal struggle with anorexia and shines light on the dark experience of anorexic victims overall. Creating this piece required a lot of self-reflection and research of anorexia, both physically and mentally. I had to be more vulnerable and honest than ever before and courageously allow my cast into every part of my life. Although this was hard, it proved to be a very rewarding and healing experience for myself and for my cast. My piece is made of 3 different sections that symbolize my mind and thoughts as they gradually get taken over by anorexia. My mind starts out with being focused on God and believing in His truth about me. But when I take my focus from Him and place them on myself, I quickly put my worth in the size of my body and obey and trust all the thoughts of anorexia. In this piece, anorexia is represented by a group of girls that slowly deceive me into believing that they're my friends, but ultimately end up being my bullies. They make me feel confident and empowered while constantly forcing me to prove myself to them and keep setting higher standards for me to follow. The empowerment I once felt turns into obsessive disgust with myself. And although they criticize me, I still choose their companionship. My mind eventually gets so deceived that I cannot tell the difference between right and wrong. I can't see the difference between life and death. What felt like choosing life was actually slowly killing me. What brought me comfort also tortured my soul. Finally, the Lord intervenes and lovingly reclaims me from the influence of anorexia, and I go through the process of surrendering my mind and body back to His truth and receiving His love. The third portion of my piece shows this struggle and follows me in the process of unlearning my detrimental habits. If I was able to finish the piece, I was wanting to show that the water that had once caused me to drown in my hurt and in my insecurities was being used by God to anoint me for His purpose. I developed the bulk of my piece from 4 different phrases. The first phrase I developed came from the idea of anorexia deceiving me through appealing to me and making me feel like I was pursuing an ideal body that all women in society desire to attain. The second phrase was a series of symbolic gestures that represented the fear, secrecy, pride, and control that fueled my detrimental habits.
5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 4, 7, 8, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah.
The third phrase was a portrayal of the aggressiveness of anorexia and the false empowerment it gives to its victims. The fourth phrase was an abstraction of anorexic rituals like excessive working out, food restriction, and obsession with physical appearance. I abstracted and rearranged these phrases to show the digression of my mental health, in addition to my healing in the end. Lastly, I incorporated a basin filled with water as a prop. Inspiration for this prop came from the idea that water is necessary for life, but can also drown you under unfortunate circumstances. This is how I viewed my eating disorder. Eating healthy and working out is not inherently evil and deadly. In fact, it keeps us alive and healthy. But when these two actions are idolized and obsessively performed, they rob one's mental and physical health. I also viewed the water as the counterfeit experience of purification within anorexia. It represented the feeling of being refreshed and the reality of drowning. Throughout the piece, I keep returning to the water, hoping to be satisfied. And although I may receive some instant gratification, I am left more exhausted, ruined, and empty than before. Overall, this process was a life-changing experience. I had a wonderful cast that supported me very well and tried every crazy thing I threw at them. They allowed me to be vulnerable and were vulnerable with me as well. Please enjoy this unfinished work. I hope one day it can be performed for an audience, especially one composed of those battling an eating disorder.